Mechanical Animals has some good moments on it, and then from there it goes way downhill really quick.
What they say is he was rubbing his crotch against the security guard's head. Hell, he probably had a Gene Simmons style codpiece and God knows what else. And I really wasn't a fan at all, Marilyn Manson. And I think
Yeah,
I've
but I
seen
mean
him, but
that's absolutely tame compared to the charges that have been
oh
leveled
yeah,
against him recently by his ex, which not only was just some charges leveled against him, but they made a whole fucking movie about it. They made a whole fucking entire movie about how he had apparently abused her and this, that, and the other. Marilyn Manson has always been a bit of the boogeyman, and him rubbing a crotch up against a security guard's head is extremely tame compared to some of the stuff that he has been accused of over the years. And again, when you talk about a guy like Marilyn Manson, there's a lot of mythology that you have to separate from actual fact. And the facts are is that
you
now we've
know,
had, I think, a dozen or more women have come forth, and there is actually an active rape investigation and sexual assault investigation in California at this moment against Marilyn Manson. I believe there's some court proceedings
And,
headed up.
and this ain't Michael Jackson. We're going after a guy that has spent most of his fortune already.
Spent most of his fortune and, is on the backside of his career. Had kind of, it started to enter a bizarre third act where he was showing up in television shows. He had a very popular character pop up in Sons of Anarchy. He had a movie plan that has now been scrapped. It was actually a large Hollywood production of some sort with some big names. Interestingly enough, though, after all of these allegations came forth, Kanye West brings him onto stage during one of his church kind of thing that he had going on there for a minute. That guy.
What happened?
well, and they what I found some of the things that Marilyn Manson had to say were interesting. My brother, well, he's my best friend. I call him my brother, Sammy. If he's on here, shout out to him. But anyway, he's a big Marilyn Manson fan. I've listened. I kind of like actually listen to what he had to say, and I guess he put the dirty truth out there about a lot of stuff. So I'm sure there's people that didn't love him. But in case of people like him, and I'm guessing they don't, big rock stars that had all kinds of groupies and young girls that they'd try to meet them and they'd send people out after them and stuff like that. I mean, they probably feel they can get away with whatever they want. Now, back to R. Kelly, though, he was just in his mind. I mean, he must have been so ate up with it, he couldn't help himself. I mean, that he set himself up to get the same way twice, right? I mean, does anybody ever get busted and stop? I mean, it has to be a disease.
Maybe Pete Townsend. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reference this for a moment because I have always, Pete Townsend has always been really hot or cold with me.
What an odd story this is going to be.
I've never, ever, ever not Pete Townsend never been a guy that I shrug my shoulders. Hey, he's okay. I've always had just absolutely just in love with the guy one minute, and then another minute I absolutely fucking hate his guts. One of the reasons that I was not a fan of Pete Townsend, particularly as of late, early in the internet's inception, when the internet started really getting to the point where you could, search for anything. We all know now that if you go and search for Google, you're going to get really about anywhere from about 3 to 5% of the actual pages that are available on that subject. Well, Pete Townsend had taken it upon himself to do some private investigation of his own without the police's help and try to track down people that were making child pornography.
Well, that's what he said.
That was the official statement given by court, and he gave a very convincing testimony in trial. I don't believe it for a single second.
No, did he take his computer somewhere and they found it on his computer?
Yep. Yep, they sure did. And they when they found it, he that was, instead of him saying I don't know how it got there, he told no, I purposely pulled that up because I'm trying to help y'all find these pedophile people with these pictures. All of these many numerous pictures that I have on my I don't know what the total amount was, but it was definitely more than 5.
He's saying Eminence Front, dude.
No. God, no. Quick one while he's away, man. Did you see the windmill on that guitar down toward the end? Dang, 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 dang. Are we going to get a copyright bust for that?
No.
Okay, good. And since we're attacking idols, British idols in particular, how about one Mr. Jimmy Page?
Come on, Bob.
And it's funny when I bring this up to people, people look at me all weird and crazy like this, that, and what are you talking about, Jimmy Page? Why are you talking about him being a part of this whole cancel culture thing? We're not going to cancel Jimmy Page. Fucking Led Zeppelin 4, dude. Stairway. Come on.
So he was.
There definitely is nothing to cancel at this point.
Well, the funny thing is that a lot of these stories that are told back and forth from these rock stars in the 70s, one name always is at the middle of it, and that is young Lori Maddox, who was a young groupie, kind of exotic looking young lady who had caught the eye of Jimmy Page, David Bowie. I think even she spent a minute or two with Freddie Mercury at that time. All of the big names and all the big stars got to hang out with Lori Maddox.
At this point, can't we blame her?
Well, I mean, she's well under the age of 18. When Jimmy Page met her, she was 14, and Jimmy Page just absolutely fell in love with her. So much so that he pretty much straight up kidnapped her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? And, they can't cancel Jimmy Page. Barack Obama invited him to the Kennedy Center honors, right?
He's a distinct. Isn't he royalty now? Didn't he get knighted or some shit?
He should have.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he wrote Stairway. Randy California wrote Stairway, but he perfected it.
Sir Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, I said it. I said it out loud. I said the quiet part out loud.
I did too.
I like it that somebody has a pretty good claim that he probably stole it, but I think every musician that ever lived is influenced by everything they ever heard.
Yeah, he stole a little bit. It's a very important part of the song. I mean, what Randy California did is nowhere in the caliber of what Jimmy Page wrote. But Jimmy Page borrowed a little bit of it.
Just a little bit. Just a smidge. And it happened with all of them back in the day. One of them would hear the lick from Clapton, and they would take it and they kind of twang it up a little bit, or they, fuzz it up down toward the end, or mute it, or whatever, and kind of, steal that one part of the lick and then turn it into their own lick. And then the other guy would hear it, and then he would, hey, that's a cool lick. How the fuck you do that? And then he'd take a look at it, and he'd add a little twist down to the end, because it would go over to this note instead of this note, so it was easier for his finger to do this part. And that's how we get all of these just truly iconic guitar lines that came out of that whole entire era, from the mid 60s all the way up into the 70s. And it was just a bunch of great guitar players stealing from one another.
I'm still shaking up. I know y'all all know the Trashman, Surfing Bird. One of the greatest pieces of work ever made. It's fucking perfect. I know Bob knows it.
No, I guess I don't know it.
Everybody heard about the bird. The bird.
That song.
Oh yeah, I do know that.
Yeah,
yes.
I thought that was the Beatles.
No, so
bird is the word.
So it's actually called
bird is a word. Famously used in Full Metal Jacket.
Okay, so
that's one of the greatest songs of all time. I agree.
It's actually called Surfing Bird.
I never knew that.
But anyway, the both parts of the song, the beginning part that Shannon just sang, that was stolen from a late 50s song. And then, in the middle where he starts going, and it kicks out.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way the song fades out. That part is another song. So they didn't write any of that shit.
So it's like Sean on all,
I've been shaking to my core when I heard that shit, because I was convinced that some fucking body sat down with a pad and pencil and all the stars lined up and they wrote that shit. But it didn't happen like that at all.
So if we go back to Lori Maddox, because I found that real interesting, because Jimmy Page dated Lori Maddox at 14, yet David Bowie reportedly took the virginity of Lori Maddox when she was 15. So that means that Jimmy Page never got past kissing Lori Maddox. If this is true,
I'm not believing that. I think that's horseshit. I'm calling bullshit on that one. Lori Maddox, Lori Maddox also hooked up with David Bowie, and I don't know. I think she looked a little hotter at 14 than 15. 15, she started looking a little beat out. The drugs are starting to settle in. Yeah, and of course, David Bowie. Again, there's another one that somehow, some way escaped. Being hooked up with an underage chick at the height of his career.